Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Iftar on Ahlulbayt TV with me, your host, Tasvira Jessa. So today, I'm so excited. Do you remember when we made nachos before? The chicken nachos. So we're gonna make nachos again, but don't worry, it's not the same thing. It's just the same concept. So this time, our nachos have a twist. They have a Middle Eastern flair to them. So generally, I think this dish is called Fatteh, which means crumbled. So everything's mixed together. So we're just gonna make it easy for ourselves and everyone, and you. We're just gonna call it Lebanese nachos. So we're gonna have Lebanese nachos today, and on the side, I know you've made hummus. A lot of you have made hummus with me before. So we're gonna make a different kind of hummus. Actually, we're gonna make it one together, and one I'm gonna talk you through because you're all experts now. So I'm sure it'll be super easy for you to do, and it's just adding one more ingredient into the hummus you already make. All right, so stay tuned and let's find out what we need to make these dishes. Don't be intimidated because this dish has a lot of elements to it, but it all comes together very easily. So stay with me, stay focused. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna preheat our oven, and here I've got some pita bread. So all we're gonna do, I've got whole wheat pita bread, but obviously if you're gonna go to the Arab stores and you get the white one, they're a lot thinner than this. This is from the store and it's quite thick. Now, I like this because it's quite filling, and this in itself becomes a meal. So to cut it, all we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it into triangles. And it's almost like a bite-sized piece that you can pick up with the topping. Remember nachos? So it's like our Dorito. Cut it into triangles, and we're just going to spray it with oil and put it in the oven. So I'm just gonna lay them out on the tray, and it doesn't really matter if they come apart. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's fine. This becomes a good mouthful, and it's actually quite filling, so you don't have to have lots of things on the side. A bit of salad, the hummus, our crudettes, and we're good. So I've just got an olive oil spray. Just spray it lightly, toss it, and if you'd like, spray it again. Not absolutely necessary because we're just drying the bread out. That's all we're doing. So this is a good dish to use, you know, when you've got too much naan in the house or pita bread in the house and it's gone a bit dry. Well, this is the perfect dish because the bread's already dry. So we're putting this into an oven because it's thick, I'm gonna say 20 minutes to half an hour. We're gonna test it, and it's gotta be nice and crisp. So this is going into an oven, and then we're gonna get on with the next part of our dish. Okay, so that was the first part. The second part, we're gonna need 2 pans. So I've got a frying pan here, and I've got a larger pan here. So you can use a pot, anything that's big enough to fit your ingredients in. So we're gonna turn this on. Okay, let that heat up for a second. And we've got a second pan here. I've got a little bit of oil already in this pan. Okay, now this pan, we're going to add in 1 tin of chickpeas. You don't have to use a tin. You can use the dried chickpeas, leave them overnight, put a little bit of baking soda in there in the morning, and just boil them in a pressure cooker or an Instant Pot. And if you're gonna do them, you might as well do a big lot. Then what I tend to do is sometimes when I do it, I put them in the Satco containers and then I just freeze them, or I put them in Ziploc bags and I freeze them almost a bowl full. So I know that's almost like 1 can. So we've got 1 can of chickpeas in here, which we're gonna just put in the oil. And I don't know if you can hear that sizzle, but all we're gonna do is crisp up the chickpeas. So we want to get them nice and toasty for this dish. We're not cooking them anymore other than getting them nice and toasty. So I'm just gonna bring the heat down a little bit, and I'm gonna leave that, and we're gonna turn our attention to this other pan. Now this has been heating up, into this, we're going to make our mixture. So we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of oil. And into the oil, I've got 1 chopped onion, which goes straight in. So we're going to turn the heat down because we don't want to brown the onion. We want to soften the onion in this dish. So unlike a curry, where you want to brown it for the curry, for this color in your sauce, this one we want to soften. So I'm turning the temperature down, and we're going to let it cook on low heat for just a few minutes. Let it soften, and then we're ready for the next ingredient into this. Now, we've done stage 1, our pita bread that's brown, that's toasting in the oven. 2, our chickpeas, which are crisping up nicely in this pan. 3 is our onions, which we have turned down on low heat, and we're softening. For our 4th stage of this nachos, we have 1 pound of lamb. Now you can see, I'm sure you can see, I've cut the fat off and I've made small cubes of this lamb. We don't want it fatty, we don't need to eat it. And into this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this meat into the Instant Pot. If you don't have one, use a pressure cooker. So a tablespoon of oil. We're going to brown the meat. Once the meat is browned, we're going to add some spices. So here I've got a teaspoon of salt. I've got half a teaspoon of garam masala, which is, remember, a mixture of all the different spices. So I know in some of the Middle Eastern shops, you get 7 spice, which is what you could use. I've got coriander, I've got cumin, again, half a teaspoon, and I've got cumin just a bit more than half a teaspoon. And because I'm Indian and I need a little bit of spice, I've got some red pepper flakes. You don't have to add that if you don't want a kick in your dish. So we're going to put all that into the meat, and then we're going to add in less than a 1/4 cup of water. We just need a little bit of water so the meat doesn't burn in the pot. And we're going to leave that to cook for about, if it's an Instant Pot, 22 minutes. In the pressure cooker, 20 minutes. Because they're tiny cubes, and it's lamb, it's not going to take long to cook. So what I've done is I've already prepared that. Here, I've already cooked a batch of the meat, and this is what it looks like. So it's soft, it's held its shape, but when I mix it into the mixture, it's going to crumble down a little bit. It'll hold a bit of shape, but it's fine if it shreds. I don't want it to be completely shredded, only because actually it could be completely shredded. It's fine if it holds its shape or it doesn't, because remember, they're nachos. When we made our chicken ones, we shredded the chicken completely. If you don't want to use pieces of meat, you can use mincemeat. So you can use mincemeat into this dish, and it's the same thing. It's just a different texture. So some people like mincemeat, some don't. It's just so it's something a little bit different. Okay, our onion has been softening here quite nicely. And to that, I'm going to add in half a teaspoon of garlic and half a teaspoon of ginger. So I've got half a teaspoon going in, and half a teaspoon of fresh ginger going in as well. Now you can see that the chickpeas are toasting and they're going a bit brown. This is exactly what we want. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because I don't want to burn them, but I want them to be nice and crisp, because when we're eating them in the nachos, we'll get that crunch coming out of them with the softness of the chickpea on the inside. So we'll cook this for a bit longer. Back to our onions. So we've put in our garlic and our ginger, and into that we've got 1 large aubergine. So taking the skin off, cut it into small cubes, and we're going to cook that in just like that. So that's a bit of vegetable in there. And the funny thing is, the children, nobody knew that that was in there. But it adds goodness, it adds nutrition, and it adds bulk to our meal as well. All right, so we'll let that cook down. This will take about 15-20 minutes. So we're going to leave it, we'll put a lid on it, and let it cook down. And every so often you need to just go back and check on it. Okay, while our onions and aubergines are cooking, these are just about done. So we're gonna give this one more minute and then we'll remove it and put it into a bowl and leave it for the end because we don't need it until we're actually putting our nachos together. So chickpeas are packed full of protein and that a lot of fiber as well, so it's really filling. This is a really nice dish because one, you haven't eaten anything fried and it's all healthy, natural ingredients. So it's something that you enjoy eating and it keeps you full for a lot longer. The kids, I think it's really nice. This is another one of those sharing dishes. So when everyone's sitting around, it's really nice to be enjoying this together. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put a lid on this and we're gonna leave it to cook for a few minutes. Okay, these are nice and toasty, so we're gonna get a bowl and I'm gonna take these out, ready for serving. Okay, so our aubergine and onions have been cooking and they're cooked down quite a bit. So it's sticking a little bit to the pan, but that's all right. But the aubergines are mashing down. So now we're ready to add in our meat. Now remember, all the seasoning went into our meat. We haven't got anything in there. So now the flavor from the meat is going to mix in with the aubergines. And at this stage, I'm going to add in a little bit of the stock, the water that came out of the meat. I'm going to add in a few tablespoons into this. Okay, so the flavors are mingling. I've got a little bit of the stock that I'm going to add in a tablespoon or two. I don't think we're going to need a lot, just to mix the flavors up, take the dryness out of our dish. And to this, I'm going to add, just to bring in a bit of this, you know, the Middle Eastern, their food's a little bit sour, so I've got some pomegranate molasses, which is going to color and add the sourness to our dish. Okay, I'm adding that in, and on top of that as well, sumac. That's going to add sourness into it as well. So remember, we've got spice in there already, and now we're just going to add in a little bit of sourness. We're going to let that cook together. Now this is all on low heat, and you can see what I said about how the meat will mash up a little bit. Some of it will hold shape and some of it will mash together. And even the aubergine, it's mashing. As soon as I press it, I can mash it down just like that. It's that soft. So we want this to cook through. I'm going to cover it for a little bit because I don't want it completely dry at this stage. So put the lid back on. So you can remember all the elements. We did the pita bread, we toasted the chickpeas, we've got the meat cooking. We had the meat cooking in an Instant Pot or in a pressure cooker, and we did our onions and our aubergines. We've had 4 steps so far. Step number 5. I'm going to get a pot. And in this pot, I'm just going to fill it up with hot water, not to the top, but I want to cook the sauce, the topping sauce, over the top. So we want to heat it through without it actually cooking or boiling. So the water is going to go in at the bottom, and we're going to put a bowl on top. Bear with me. I know it sounds really tedious, but once you've done it, you'll actually see how simple this is to do. It's just different elements, but they all come together in an amazing way. I can't tell you. Wait till you see the end product, but I'm sure you will really thoroughly enjoy having a go at making this. Our meat and our aubergine is cooking, and our next stage is making the sauce. But actually, we want to make the sauce right at the very end. And as this probably needs another 5 minutes or so to cook down a little bit more, let's make our hummus together, because that's not going to take us long at all. For this hummus dish, we're not going to use beans. We're going to use a vegetable. So in this bowl, I've got 3 sweet potatoes that I've peeled and I've steamed. So they haven't touched any water. I've taken a bigger pot than this, And I've put a vegetable basket in there, the steaming basket. Put just a little bit of water so the water doesn't actually touch. And I put the sweet potato straight on top of the basket, covered it, and it only took about 7 to 8 minutes. It doesn't take long at all. Let it cool, and then we're gonna put them all into the food processor. So straight in goes all of our sweet potato. Now, sweet potatoes are really, really healthy. So obviously, the orange, the same color as the carrot, the orangeness gives us a lot of vitamin K. Super healthy because we haven't lost the nutrients because we steamed it, so it hasn't gone into the water. All the nutrients are still in there. Same ingredients for a normal hummus. Lemon juice, so 1 whole lemon squeezed. And in here, I've got a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of paprika, and I've got about 2 to 3 garlic cloves that have been mashed. And that all goes straight in, just like that. We'll get it all out because we don't want to lose any of that flavor. Okay. And again, remember, salt, you need to try it later on as well. So here I've got tahini, and we're going to put about 3 generous tablespoons. So 1, 2, and 3 tablespoons of tahini. Tahini is so good for you because remember, it's the sesame seed paste. There's nothing else added into it. It's very healthy. Now, we're going to put our lid back on. And we've got our olive oil, and we're just going to drizzle on a little bit. So I'll turn on the machine, and then we're going to put in a little bit of olive oil. And that's it. We'll scrape it down a little bit. And that's how simple it is to make this hummus. So remember, do try and taste it because you may need a little bit more salt because this absorbs a lot of flavor. And that's it. Our sweet potato hummus is ready. So now, like I said, let's check our meat. And that looks good. The meat is mashed up inside. So are the aubergines. And that is ready to go on top of our toasted bread. My gosh, this is so exciting. Our bread's toasting, our aubergine and meat mixture is ready. We made a lovely new kind of hummus. And now I've got some water boiling, which I've turned down, and I'm putting a bowl on top. Remember, I don't want to cook this sauce, I want to warm the sauce. This is the topping. So this is our final 5th element of our nachos. It's so exciting. Here, I've got 500 grams of Greek yogurt. That's gonna go straight in. And to the Greek yogurt, I'm going to add in, this is a nice garlicky sauce. You know that taste where all these different flavors infuse and this just warms you. So I've got 3 cloves of garlic going in there. You can add more if you like. I've got the juice of 1 big lemon. So that's going in. That's going to add a little bit of sourness to our sauce. And here I've got a 1/4 cup of tahini. Now that's going to add a lot of creaminess and it's going to add a depth of flavor as well. So all of that goes in, and all we're going to do is we're going to cook the sauce. Now we're trying to cook out the garlic. Because we've put garlic in our sauce, we don't want it to be raw and sort of bite us on the tongue when we eat it. So we're going to give it a good mix, just like that. And as this sauce cooks or warms, it's going to thicken. So it's gonna be really nice on top. It's not gonna make our dish soggy, but it doesn't take more than just a couple of minutes. So it's not something you want to leave, something you want to stand here and give it a good mix. So we're going to make a nice smooth paste. Make sure there aren't any bubbles in there. And you can see already within seconds how this sauce is coming together. Okay, so the sauce is nice and creamy now. And just to finish off our flavor, we've got a teaspoon of salt. So the salt goes directly in there. And give it a good mix. And that's it. We are ready to put our nachos together. Alhamdulillah, now we've made all the different elements. Time to put it all together. So here we've got all our toasted bread. Just laid it out on a platter. So choose a nice platter because it's not going to move from here. On top of that, we're going to put our meat mixture. So I'm just going to spread it around. Just like that, as evenly as possible, so that in every piece of bread, we can pick up some sort of topping. And the thing is, you can see how you can't really see the aubergine. It's kind of like hidden away amongst the meat. And which is really nice because, again, we've managed to hide a vegetable into our food for our children to enjoy. So we'll go right to the edge there. And remember, this is only a pound of meat, so a little has gone a long way. And you want to assemble just before serving. So you can make the elements, mix up your sauce, the topping that we made just now, and that's probably the only thing I would save for the very end. So do that, although you mix it up, but just cook it over the hot water very much at the end, and you are ready to then serve. So if all the elements are done, it just makes it a lot easier, and all you have to do is warm up. This can be made in the daytime, the meat mixture, and all you have to do is warm it up before serving, and that's it. So I'm putting all of this lovely goodness onto our pita chips. The pita chips you can make well in advance, so days before. Or if you've got the pita bread drying out, just make it, put it in an airtight container and leave it. On top of this, we've got our toasted chickpeas, which we're just going to drizzle over the top. And that's it. Lots of goodness in all of this. Wow. It's all beginning to come together. Don't you just love it when things come together? You plan all these things in your head, and then it's up to Allah to decide what's best. But it's lovely to see when it all comes together. Now, here's our topping. So we're going to just lightly spread that over the top. Oh. Honestly, I don't feel bad hiding all the good things underneath because we've got lots of lovely things to go on top as well. There we go. This is so Moorish. It's one of those things that you just can't stop. But because it's so good for you, it's fine if you don't stop. And you have just that little bit more. But remember, our Imam Ali has said when you eat, divide your stomach into 3 parts. So 1 part water, 1 part food, and 1 part air. So when we don't overeat and our stomach is still hungry in the month of Ramadan, it helps us with our ibadat. It brings us closer to Allah. On top of this, I've got some parsley leaves that it's just been washed, not even chopped, so you see the lovely shape of the leaves, and you can appreciate the beauty of Allah and how He makes everything unique in its own way. Everything is individual. Oh, this looks absolutely amazing. Can't wait to share this with everyone around me. I think everyone's going to enjoy this one. And here I've got some toasted pine nuts. So what I did was, in a frying pan, a small one, I only put like half a teaspoon of butter in, and I took my pine nuts and I toasted them until they're nice and golden. And this will add an extra bit of crunch. And again, because I've toasted them, a lot of essential oils have come out of the nuts. Now, some people are allergic to nuts. Pine nuts you must check, because they don't actually follow the same rules as all the other nuts, but do please check. You can leave them out if someone's allergic and you don't want them. And the jewel of our crown, the fruit from Jannah. Look how beautiful this looks. It just like bits of cut ruby on our dish. It literally lifts it to the heavens. It makes such a difference. I see the pomegranate, just I can't help but smile. Reminds me of Bibi Fatima, the Queen of Jannah. And this is a fruit that is fit for royalty. That's it. There we have it. And now let me show you our hummus. When you looked at it in the bowl, it didn't look so appealing, but it's been transformed. So let's plate up. Wow, alhamdulillah, look, a feast fit for a king and a queen. So we made sweet potato hummus, remember? Now it's all about how you present it. So alhamdulillah, the sweet potato hummus in here, and you can see the pink hummus that we have here. So I know lots of you in the past have made hummus with me, same ingredients. So we've started with our can of chickpeas, and we put in some garlic, some salt, some lemon juice. And then remember, we pour in the olive oil. Our secret ingredient in this is a beetroot. So we've got literally different colors available to tempt our children with. It doesn't have to be the boring cream one. And because we've used our pita bread in here, we've served it with crudettes in a way that's going to appeal to everyone, young and old. So we've got our hummus, and we've made our Lebanese nachos. So I hope you really sit and enjoy this with your family. The love and the closeness that will be built, that you're sharing and that's being brought at the table, the memories that you'll make for your children, even for yourselves, it's absolutely priceless. I've really enjoyed cooking with you today, and inshallah I'll see you on another episode of Iftar on Ahlulbayt TV. Take care, be well, be loved. Ma salama.